In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at informational and persuasive text. The following are the objectives that we're going to be covering in this unit. The first being able to differentiate between substantiated and unsubstantiated opinions, being able to identify controlling ideas while evaluating supporting text and organizational patterns and graphics, forming a personal understanding of an issue, and synthesizing information from multiple texts to draw conclusions. We're also going to summarize the text and identify non-essential information in a summary and unsubstantiated opinions in a critique, distinguish between a critique and a summary, and evaluate formality and tone. Looking at the first skill, we have differentiating between substantiated and unsubstantiated opinions. When supporting arguments in a text, each of these types of evidence can be used, but a writer should be careful when using anecdotal proof. It may weaken the overall argument. Let's suppose, for instance, that you are writing an essay about television use among teenagers. You begin with the knowledge that teens watch television. This is logical evidence. You then might include supporting information about your own experience or scientist studies. This would be considered empirical evidence. However, if you include information that a friend has given you about stories she has heard about teens who watch too much TV, that qualifies as anecdotal evidence. It would not be as accurate, nor would it serve to strengthen your overall points like empirical evidence would. Please take note that you should be writing notes about the information in the video. Remember that you can also pause at any point in time to go back and replay any information you may not have heard, understood, or had time to copy down. The next skill that we're going to be looking at all ties in together. The main idea or controlling idea of a text is the topic or subject that the passage as a whole is all about. Sometimes the author states the main idea clearly, putting it at the beginning or end of the passage. Other times, the author's purpose is implied or less clear. In these cases, the reader must use details, ideas, or other context clues to discover what the passage is about. And this is where evaluating supporting text comes into play. You want to make sure that you're only using details that support the controlling idea. Supporting details are facts, reasons, or examples that describe or explain the main idea of a passage. An author will often include both important details and less important details to support the main point that he or she is making. So, you want to keep the following tips in mind in order to identify main idea and supporting details. First one is, after you read, ask yourself, what was the passage, article, or story about? Try to sum up your answer in one sentence. Your answer will be close to the author's controlling idea. The next tip is, do not confuse a detail from a passage with the main idea. Supporting details are there to add support or extra information about the main idea, or to prove a point raised by the main idea. Be careful to avoid extraneous details. An extraneous detail or irrelevant detail does not constitute a vital or important part to the text and does not directly support the main idea. For the next skill, I'd like you to keep in mind that ideas and topics can be presented in many ways. With that being said, a viewpoint is a way that someone perceives something. Just as there can be several different viewpoints on a topic, there can also be several different ways to present those viewpoints. When preparing a report or other presentation on a topic, it benefits the reader, writer, or presenter to synthesize information from as many relevant sources as possible. To synthesize means to find relationships from a number of sources and combine information into an effective result. Let's say, for example, you're writing a paper on a certain topic. Your final results will be most comprehensive and successful if you use various sources, making connections about the information from the material you gathered. Although all your sources might discuss that certain topic, the readers of your essay or the listeners of your speech would feel that you had a precise knowledge of your material if you synthesized the various sources of information to make clear analysis and connections between the texts you consulted. Some sources could include textbooks, magazines, newspapers, scholarly journals, manuals, or internet resources. When synthesizing and making connections about informational texts, it is beneficial to draw comparisons and contrasts when you can. Remember that when you make an argument or form an opinion, it always helps to understand as many different viewpoints as possible. This way, you can make an informed decision about what you think. So when you put it all together, this is how you make an inference. You put together what you read, what you know, and what you can infer. For the next skill, you need to know that a summary is a brief restatement of the most important details and ideas in a longer text. Writers usually compose a summary to communicate information as concisely and directly as possible. A thorough summary should include the following: the main idea, the most important supporting details, and for longer text, any other important ideas. Now, sometimes a summary does more than simply list the main idea and supporting details. When analysis of the text is involved, a summary becomes a critique. A critique is a written evaluation or assessment of another text. Writers of critiques share their opinions or perspectives with the readers. Critiques move beyond a mere summary of the content or meaning of a piece of writing. Good critiques should strive to achieve any or all of the following, which would be to state what the author was trying to accomplish, making interpretations or judgments about whether or not the author succeeded. Discuss strengths or weaknesses in the author's points or in his or her support of these points. Give evidence to support an evaluation of what has been read, refraining from unsubstantiated opinions. And use clear, concise points to avoid slang, casual language, or an overly biased style or tone. So when it comes to evaluating formality and tone in this unit in particular, we want to make sure that the words that are being used are appropriate to the material. We don't want to use any words that detract or make the information less believable because it's not formal. You also want to make sure that you stay away from opinionated comments, which could deviate and alter the tone of the overall content. So overall, in this unit, you want to keep in mind the skills that we just went over and how they apply to an informative text and a persuasive text.